Greetings all. Today we're discussing if the Emperor is going to revive. Before he was the corpse god on the Golden Throne, the Emperor was a man, albeit one of power and longevity that defies mortal comprehension. Born in ancient terror long before recorded history, he was a perpetual, an immortal human who watched civilizations rise and fall. He guided humanity from the shadows, a hidden shepherd protecting his flock from the nascent predatory powers of the warp. His grand vision, however, truly began to take shape during the Age of Strife, where human civilization collapsed into anarchy and warp storms isolated star systems. He emerged them not only as a subtle guide, but as a golden armored warlord, unifying the techno-barbarian tribes of terror with overwhelming force and strategic genius. His goal was singular and absolute: to reunite all the lost humanity and usher in an age of reason, science and enlightenment, free from the shackles of superstition and the insidious influence of the Chaos Gods. But this grand design was shattered by the ultimate betrayal. The Horus Heresy was not merely a civil war, it was a spiritual cataclysm. Lorgar the Primarch, who craved faith, found new gods to worship in the warp. Horus Lupercal, the favoured son, was corrupted by ambition and the whispers of chaos. Half the legions turned against their father and the galaxy burned. The culmination of this tragedy was the duel aboard Horus's flagship, the Vengeful Spirits. The Emperor, holding back his power out of a lingering love for his son, was mortally wounded. Only when he witnessed the death of a loyal servant did he unleash his psychic might, obliterating Horus' body and soul. He was carried back to the Imperial Palace on Terra, a broken and dying figure, and interred with arcane machinery on the Golden Throne. For 10,000 years this has been his reality. The Golden Throne is not a life support system in any conventional sense. It is an arcane psychic amplifier of unimaginable complexity. It is the linchpin upon which the entire Imperium rests, performing a trinity of impossible tasks. Firstly, it sustains the Emperor's life force, holding his shattered soul within his ravaged body, preventing his final death. Secondly, it focuses his immense psychic consciousness to power the Astronomicon, the warp beacon that allows interstellar travel across the galaxy. Without it, the Imperium would be blind, its fleets lost, and its trillion souls isolated and doomed. Third, and perhaps most critically, it acts as a psychic seal, holding shut a raw, gaping wound in the warp beneath the Imperial Palace, a failed extension of the Emperor's webway project that, if opened, would see Terra itself transformed into a new Eye of Terror. He is both prisoner and warden, his consciousness an eternal agonizing vigil against total damnation. In this state, the ultimate irony came to pass. The Emperor, who had crusaded against faith and worship, became the object of the largest and most fanatical religion in the galaxy. The Imperial cult deified him, recasting his secular Imperial truth as a holy war. Trillions of souls offer up prayers to the God Emperor daily, a torrent of psychic energy pouring towards the Golden Throne. For millennia, the status quo held. The Emperor was a silent, slowly decaying body on the throne, a symbol and a psychic engine, but not an active participant. Now, however, that status quo has been irrevocably broken. The current era, what many are calling the Age of the Dark Imperium, began with the 13th Black Crusade and the fall of Cadia. The destruction of the Cadian Pylon network, which had held the Eye of Terror in check for millennia, tore the galaxy in half. The Cicatrix Maledictum, the Great Rift, is a scar of pure warp energy that has effectively divided the Imperium. Warp travel has become more perilous than ever, and the light of the Astronomicon flickers and dims, unable to reliably pierce the veil. This single event shattered the fragile stability of the Imperium and created a crisis on a scale not seen since the Heresy. It was a catalyst that demanded a response beyond anything the stagnant High Lords of Terror could muster. That response came from the form of a miracle, the return of a loyalist Primarch. Rabute Guilliman, the Lord of Ultramar, was resurrected through a combination of arcane Eldar sorcery and Adeptus Mechanicus technology. His return was a thunderclap of hope, but it also provided us with our first direct, credible insight into the Emperor's current state for 10,000 years. Guilliman journeyed to the throne room, seeking the guidance of his father he had not seen since the darkest days of the Heresy. The reunion was not the one of the loving father and a prodigal son. Guilliman found not the magnificent, charismatic man he remembered, but something else entirely. The being on the Golden Throne was a psychic furnace of unimaginable power, a vortex of cold fury and raw energy. The The Primarch, a demigod in his own right, could barely withstand the sheer psychic pressure in the room. He attempted to communicate, but the entity that was his father did not speak in words. It communicated in visions, emotions, and raw data, a torrent of information that nearly overwhelmed his formidable intellect. What Guilliman experienced was not a conversation but an agonizing communion that had transcended its former humanity. The Emperor he knew was gone, replaced by a nascent god forged in 10,000 years of suffering, sacrifice, and unceasing worship of trillions. The Emperor confirmed Guilliman's authority as Lord Commander of the Imperium, but offered no comfort, no warmth, only the cold, hard calculus of survival. This single event changes everything. It confirms the Emperor is not merely a corpse or a passive psychic battery. He is conscious, aware, and his power is not fading, but growing, evolving into something new. We see evidence of this burgeoning power everywhere. The rise of living saints like Saint Celestine, who are resurrected time and again by what can only be described as the Emperor's will. The phenomenon of the Empress Tarot becoming more active and prophetic. The accounts of Imperial Guard regiments being saved by golden light or ghostly legions of space marines. These miracles are becoming more frequent and more potent, especially in the wake of the Great Rift. It's as if the psychic wound in the galaxy has also torn a hole in the veil that separated the Emperor's consciousness from the material world. He is beginning to touch reality directly. This leads us to the heart of the matter. What does revival actually mean? I do not believe we will see the Emperor step down from the Golden Throne, clad in his golden armor, and lead the armies of mankind once more. The logistical consequences of such an event would be catastrophic. The moment he leaves the throne, the Astronomicon would go dark, plunging the Imperium into eternal night. Simultaneously, the demonic portal beneath Terra would burst open, and the throne world, the very heart of humanity, would be utterly destroyed. Furthermore, his physical body is a ruin, little more than a skeleton held together by arcane technology. There is likely nothing to reanimate in a biological sense. Instead, I am convinced that we are witnessing a psychic apotheosis. The Emperor is becoming a god, not in the metaphorical sense that the Imperial cult believes, but in a very literal, tangible way, just like the Chaos gods he so despised. He is being transformed by the very force he sought to eradicate: faith. For 10 millennia, the psychic energy of humanity's worship has been flowing into him, a river of a belief that has slowly but surely altered the fundamental nature of his soul. He is becoming a new power in the warp, a god of order, law, and humanity. His growing ability to manifest his power in the material realm is the first stage of this ascension. There is, however, darker interpretations of this transformation. Some within the Imperium and even some from his own custodian guard fear the emergence of what they call the Dark King. This theory posits that the entity being born on the Golden Throne is not the benevolent savior of humanity, but a being of pure tyrannical order, a psychic despot forged from the pain and fury. It would be an entity that sees humanity not as children to be protected, a view the old Emperor may have held, but as fuel and tools for his own existence and its war against chaos. This is the ultimate grimdark possibility, that in their desperation to be saved, humanity has created a god in its own image. A wrathful, unforgiving being of immense power, stripped of all compassion. Guilliman's own harrowing experiences lend credence to this fear. The being he met was not the architect of the Great Crusade, but a terrifying alien intelligence. So is the Emperor going to revive? The answer, as I see it, is a complex and terrifying yes, but not the revival of a man. We are on the precipice of the birth of a god. The Emperor's final act may not be a physical one, but a metaphysical one. He may be orchestrating events, pushing pieces into place for a final cataclysmic confrontation, the return of Guilliman, the rise of the Primaris Marines, the increasing psychic awakening of humanity. All of it may be a plot of a grand desperate plan set in motion by a being who can perceive the timelines of the galaxy. The future of the Imperium and of humanity itself hinges on the nature of this new god. Will it be a god emperor who can finally smite the forces of chaos and lead humanity into a new golden age, as the faithful believe? Or will it be the Dark King, a being of pure cold order that will enslave humanity in a psychic cage that fights its eternal war, a fate perhaps worse than extinction? The long vigil is ending, but the night that follows may be darker than anything that has come before. The Emperor is stirring, and when he finally awakes in his new form, the galaxy will be remade in his image for better or for worse. We are living through the final pages of the Imperium's history and the terrifying preface to what comes next. This archive has now been fully decoded. Continue your journey into the librarium with the video displayed on screen. The vast wealth of the archives continues to reveal new knowledge of the dark history of the 40K verse. In the grim dark of the far future, there is only war.